Well, hello. We are just live a little past 11:05. Tried to make it here. I just actually got off the phone with Larry. This is Larry's car. We have shown this a couple times, and it's kind of moving ahead into progress. So I'm BC, Spirit Cars. We're here building hot rods. That's what we do. Josh, the voice of Spirit Cars, is behind the camera there. So if you can, if you want to call and talk to somebody here and get some ideas of what it takes to build your dream, he's the man. He can either chat with you or email with you or talk to you on the phone or
Skype.
You Skype, whatever that is. You can Skype with him, or what else do we do? Come on down. We'd be glad to show you the shop. We're in we're in Flippin, Arkansas. Good old Flippin, Arkansas. So anyway, I just got off the phone with Larry. We've been working on this car, and Larry bought this body from another manufacturer, and he had some ideas, and we did a lot of changes up on the body. He brought it to us, and we were going to do one thing, and then he added a little to it, and a little more, and a little more, and now we're actually going to paint the car, get the motor in it right where it goes, get the rolling chassis built, paint the frame. So he's going to do, I'm thinking he's going to do the wiring himself and get the motor running himself, or we're going to wire it, or...
Well, I think we're wiring it.
We're wiring it,
wires.
Leave the wires out here to terminate the motor or whatever. So we've got the body pretty close. Got the floor done. Oh, and Larry, check this out. Larry had an idea for seats. So Eddie just copied his idea. I don't know if we worked off a picture or what did we work off, but I think it looks pretty sweet. Brown with kind of a black, and it's not real leather, but it looks like leather, feels like leather, smells like leather. I mean, it's everything but
It's
the
never
cost.
been on a cow.
It didn't come off a cow. That's the only thing. And it probably lasts better than leather too. So we've got it. It'll fit in here nice. We've already talked about how we're going to do the top, and we've got the console in here, and so interior's coming along. Eddie's got a lot of the panels going. Muzzle loading season did open this week in Arkansas, and you know how it works in Arkansas. Come deer season, yeah. You look around here, it's kind of empty. Well, you can look around here in the morning. It's hunting season, so we got a few people off this week doing their hunting thing. Larry comes to us, wants us to do some things. We start, we talk, we do. And this is how it happens a lot of times. You've looked at cars. You may have looked at cars, I mean, your whole life. You may have been drawing cars when you were in high school or supposed to be doing math and you're drawing cars or whatever. So you got your dream car. But your dream car is kind of like this one with a little bit of this one. And then some of that one. And can you make it sort of like this? So it's not uncommon for us to, can I get a rear end like this one? Only not like this. We got a different housing, and here's the housing we got. So we got some pictures from Larry, and we got an idea of what he wants. So he wants this, only different. And then he's done a very good job. He's already mocked up his motor where he wants the motor to sit. We had an intake on here earlier, and we had the distributor on there, so it sits right up into this groove. It's real nice. It's about right close to 2 inches away from the firewall. So we've got the body mounted on the frame. So what is the point of today's? I need to get it. Here's the point of today's thing. We're bringing all these together. You have all your ideas. Well, you're trying to blend a lot of different ideas and make your own awesome car. So I guess the goal is to make your car somebody else's picture someday. So they go, hey, I want one like that, maybe a little different. So we're running into a couple issues, not major. I talked to Larry a little earlier, just before we went on, and said we're going to talk about some issues we got, and you need to make some decisions. So the point of this video today is to help Larry get through some issues here and still get the car we need to get done, so we're all on the same page, and maybe it'll help you to think through. This is hot rodding. It's a lot of hot rodding to just make it happen. There's some right ways to do it, and there's some wrong ways to do it. Let's stay away from the wrong ways and stay in the right ways. He's given us great dimensions. We know we want the motor so far forward. He's got a cool serpentine setup that goes on here, so we got to add that. I'm assuming we're using a short water pump.
Long.
Okay, long water pump. Okay, now that wasn't on here, but the dimension might have said that. So we got a long water pump. Now we got to put the radiator, and between the water pump and the radiator, we've got to get a fan of some sort. Highly recommend electric fans, especially on an open compartment on an engine. What will ruin a lifetime of fun hot rodding is some kids stick their finger in there, or you stick your finger in there, and boom, your finger's off because you're running a fan that is on the motor, and they don't cool any more efficiently. I just highly, highly recommend, and we have the fan on the radiator already. Cool, we were talking about that. So we have our radiator. Our wheelbase is not critical. Longer your wheelbase is, it drives a little bit nicer, so if you've got a real short, I don't know, 85-inch wheelbase on your T-bucket or whatever, it's going to be a little bit more squirrely than if you have a, say, a 95 or 100 inch or 100 and, what's our 23, 113?
103.
And our 27's 112, 13?
Yeah.
So, and this is a 27, so normally our 27 would be about 112 inch wheelbase. Body's down, got a frame mocked up. We've actually got the kick up in the back of the frame about where we need to be. We know what's going on there. We built the floor. This car gets Pro Street rear end.
Right here.
It's narrowed up a little bit, not super short, but we had to tuck in the wheel tubs and everything. Got that done. So what we want to do next is get our front suspension on. We got our motor mocked up. We got our trans cross member in there. I like it. He's going to go with a ladder bar type setup. We've already kind of held these up into place where they're going to mount up in there, where it's going to hit on the rear end. I just did a quick visual. This is a bracket that we're going to have to use to get these to work under there, and so I just did a quick visual to make sure it's going to fit. I'm happy with that. Now here I am in the front end. It was Christmas yesterday, 2 days ago. This is a sweet, sweet front end. It's oval drilled, aluminum axle. This thing, I picked it up and it was like, what is this? Where's the axle? This thing is so light. It's awesome. We're going with like a half rack setup.
Unisteer rack.
Unisteer rack, is that the brand name?
Yep.
Okay, Unisteer, a half rack. And it'll be cross steer. We got our spindles, we got our front radius rods. We sort of know what we're doing there, and it's going to be a spring behind setup. So instead of the axle, which would normally go, when you say a spring over, the spring is directly over the axle on the bat wings and tucks up under here with the axle directly under it. Well, this is going to be a spring behind, so the axle is going to be in front of the spring comes behind on those bat wings, and the spring tucks up under there. The top of the cross member, this is a stamped cross member, a Model A style.
Pete Jakes.
Pete and Jake's Model A. I mean, we make a lot of our own parts, but this is from them. So now we need to, when it mounts, we'll cut it. It's got to be angled at the right degree and what have you. But it's going to mount right in this area here. So it'll be flush on top of this. You know, obviously, it don't fit in there now. We'll get our dimension from here to here. A critical thing in the overall look and stance of your car. I mean, we want the overall rake to be one thing. Generally, on a Model A, it mounts on top of the cross member. This hole here is for a bracket that comes out. We can easily take these off and move them down here to where it goes. That's not an issue at all. But if I lower this down even where it goes at the 3 inches or whatever it is, or whatever that is, 2.5, 3 inches. You get a cross-section view of this car. Look at how that radiator jumps up. Even if I can lower it approximately the 3 inches to sit on top of that, you can still see that sets up pretty high. From this angle I can't see it too well, but I'm probably wanting it to sit somewhere right in here. Is that pretty close right there? Down? Up?
Up to be level.
Okay, perfect. Up a little bit.
Right there. Pretty close. Maybe
So that means I'm going to have to mount this radiator before or after the cross member up here. I may have mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again, and every time I change one thing, I may be working on this now, I may know I need it here, I may need it down there. I may have set the radiator up there, and I may have got all my measurements here, but if I didn't stand back and look at how the top of that radiator affected here, I could have everything working properly, but I got a big problem. So anytime I change something, I'm going to move this forward, I'm going to put the radiator behind it, because we got such a cool axle. I want that thing sitting out here. That's almost a focal, it's not almost, that will be a focal point of the car. People are going to walk up to this car and they'll be drawn to that axle in the front end, and the wheels and tires that he's got is really cool. So no problem, I just move it forward, put the radiator behind it. Well, that's caused me another problem, and I'm not sure yet what the problem is. I just, came back over to this car looking at it 10 minutes before we went on our program here. So we're going to wind up with the radiator and the steering box interfering with each other if we're not careful. It's not a guarantee that it may just bolt right up in here, but we have some issues. I've still got to get my, and Sean knows, it's always thinking about ahead. I'm just going to point a few things out here. Sean's our fabricator and does a really good job. We're blessed to have him. I'm able to come over here and do this, maybe point to something and walk away and come back, and he's got this thing is better than I would have done it probably. So he put the motor mounts on. We talked about it last night, and he got this done this morning, and I come over here, and he just pointed out, it's like, yeah, I already cut this one down, because you know how we always got to get that steering rod underneath that. Well, if you can see this one, it's a lot deeper. We cut this one up a little bit, because we're going to come down with a steering rod, where traditionally in our T-bucket we'll run with what's called a slingshot steering. The steering box will be here and the rod will come across. It'll steer from your left wheel. This one is going to steer from your right wheel. The D shaft is going to come across, and we'll come through with the least amount of U-joints as we can. I think we can get one here, and that should be good. And so I'm going to steer my box right here, but the arm is going to go across, and I'm going to steer my right wheel. So, and then there'll be a drag link to steer your left wheel from your right wheel. We'll need to make sure that I've got enough clearance to get my radiator. Now on a Chevy radiator, we've got, for your Chevy small block, you got your inlet and outlet, the different ones. I mean, it's going to be bottom right and top left. So I've got to clear down here between whatever drag links and what have you I got there, and I got to make sure I can clear around. It's pretty easy on a setup like this. It's when you start putting a blower or something on it. This is another issue. Can I get around? Can I make the turn? Can I get between the blower belts and everything? Think ahead, think ahead, think ahead. Pretty key, pretty critical. Larry said he's going to be watching. Has Larry got any comments there yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very cool.
Very cool. Okay, well that helps me figure it out. Very cool. But I think it's going to work with the radiator behind. We make sure we clear our steering box. This is some really good looking stuff. It's not spared any expense per se. You got nice quality stuff that's just going to stick out. And are we putting horns on this?
Yes.
We have some horns here.
so we're gonna have to cut them down.
already made, but I don't like the length of these personally. Now, if I put my front end out here, which we're going to move it forward more of what we were originally planning, this may look pretty good, but that sticks out pretty far there. So, I don't know, does that look a little better to you? Here you go. Give Larry a side shot here. We can come in about that far, or we can go out that far, or we can come all the way to the end. Probably a chrome spreader bar in the front of it. It'll be opposite. The inside of it, you'll actually see the inside, and the chrome spreader bar can go in there. So we can tack those on a couple different ways. As we built this frame, one thing we don't do is we don't finish weld. You can see on these motor mounts here, even though we're pretty comfortable with, you got about a 3-degree angle. He had an angle finder here somewhere.
Yeah, it's under that Unisteer rack right over there.
So when the intake manifold was on there, if you look at the motor, it's at an angle, and it's he's in there about 3 degrees. But if you look at the top of the intake manifold, the plate that your carburetor sits on is actually at an angle to the rest of it. So your carburetor, they try to put it parallel to the ground. And the reason you've got the angle back there, you can't run your drive shaft straight. You've got to have your drive shaft at an angle or it'll wear and vibrate. So you've got to run an angle and then the other way. So 3 degrees is the angle it doesn't have to be exactly that, but it needs to be in that neighborhood. Our frame is still just tacked together. We put this cross member in here just to kind of hold the frame to square. We've got a rear cross member in it, just holding the frame to square. The one part is permanent. Everything's still tacked, even though we're pretty confident, pretty comfortable this is where it's going to be. Still just tacked. Once we get our front end set up, and Larry, if we could get the wheels for the front, that would be pretty nice. Then we could actually put them on and know better what the rake would be, but we're moving ahead either way. If we can get a height anyway on the wheels, that'd be a good thing. I don't think we have that. So we'll set it down, but before we, lots of different ways to do it. The way we'll probably set up the rear end on this, I'm going to probably turn the car upside down. We've got the car, we've got body mounts in it already. The bolts are already in the body mounts, so this body is where it's going to be on the frame. We'll turn it upside down with the body and probably attach some of these components in the rear end with the car upside down. It's just, you don't always have that option, but when you do have that option, it makes it a little bit easier, and we're probably going to take it that direction. We're a day or 2 days away from this thing being chassis done, chassis welded. Then it'll be time to put our steering box in, get our brake pedals set up. I'm sure we still thinking about how we want the brake pedal coming up through the floor. This car's already got a toe panel in here, a toe kick panel, whatever you want to call it. So it's flat here, but the inside of the body comes up. I guess if you get any advice out of today's thing, think ahead. It's great when you come up with, a bunch of pictures. I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, I wanted some of this one, I want some of that one. That's a great way to build your car and build it in your mind, but at some point it actually has to go down the road and be safe and be aesthetically pleasing also. So think ahead. Just don't get so focused, especially chassis building that's that you've not done before maybe, or you got one idea, I want to do this, just because you get a kit from whether it be Super Bell or TCI makes a good one, Weimer's, Heights is out there, of course Spirit Industries, so I'm a little partial to. We make a lot of component pieces and front ends and suspension parts. Just because we make it, just because it comes like this, just because it looks like it's supposed to weld right here, plug weld with that and look like this, that doesn't make it so. Obviously, we got to cut, trim, do, fit, make sure it fits to the next piece. So look ahead, just always look ahead. This car is coming together way cool. I mean, distributor fits right in the groove, right in there. It's offset a little bit. It's all, I'm liking it. Interior, hopefully you like your seat. Give you one more view of the seat. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Sits pretty comfortable. I mean, it's good design. So I'm hoping Larry's got a big smile. You got that smile, Larry? Because when they got the smile, oh, you got them beat. Kind of like a poker game. You know somebody if they got the smile when they see their car. They can't help it.
I got a question.
Yep.
Does that rack and pinion eliminate bump steer?
On bump steer, a lot of people will advertise bump steer because they're selling you a Mustang 2 front rack. What causes a bump steer, I wish I had a little better setup. I can't make you a visual picture that's going to make any sense. All right, so when your car goes up and down, the spring goes up and down. For one, the travel on the front of a hot rod is not going to be that much travel. Even if you hit a severe bump, I don't know, what is your suspension going to travel, 3 inches maybe? So if I take 3 inches, and if I go the distance, now bump steer occurs when you do slingshot steering. So I've got my arm here attached to the slingshot. I don't have it, so I got my arm out here. When this thing travels up and down, the distance that it's traveling up and down, based on an arc of it moving across to the steering arm, it potentially, if I move 3 inches, and the arc of that in the distance of 3 inches is not going to be any more than, I mean, I'm sure I could work a formula, but I'm going to say a 1/16 of an inch. So when you hit a serious bump at 3 inches of travel in your suspensions, you may have a 1/16 of an inch of what they call bump steer, and what that means is your wheel momentarily, just for the amount of hitting that bump, is going to move in a 1/16 of an inch and move right back. So yes, in theory, you do have bump steer. It takes some of that out. It takes, I mean, most of it out. You couldn't even measure it probably with a rack like that. I wouldn't make your suspension choice, your steering choice, based on bump steer. Base your steering choice on, do I like slingshot or do I like cross steer? Do I have room for cross steer? Do I want all that up front, or do I want a little bit cleaner look on the side? I've seen 10 cars with it like this way, and I've seen 20 like it this way, and I like some aspects of this, I like some of that. Which one do I want? So I would choose based on how you aesthetically like it, and does it work? We always use not say always, but most of the time on a Model A 32, 34, we'll use a rack and pinion up in the front. Most of the time on a T-Bucket 27, we'll use a slingshot steering. It doesn't affect our steering. The biggest thing you might want to be aware of is a steering dampener. It will go from your radius rod to your drag link. It would be like a newer Ford truck with a straight axle. It's got a steering dampener. You set up a harmonics in your front end when you're driving at certain speeds, and that's just nature does that. And depending on the balance of your wheels and the tire pressure of your wheels, you can set up that harmonics, and your front end might want to wobble, and that steering stabilizer will take that out and correct issues like that. Do we have any other questions? If you like the live part of it, you like to be able to ask questions. We think, now I'm not positive, but we think, well, if you're watching it live, there's a follow button on here, and when you push the follow button while we are live, then it will notify you when we go live. Otherwise, it goes uploaded to the website. When do we plan on doing YouTube?
Hopefully soon.
soon. YouTube has a live program. We're getting some software that'll let us do the same broadcast. So it'll be live Facebook and it'll be live YouTube at the same time. Sean, come here. Sean! He's hiding. I was gonna have Sean.
He
come
can't
in.
hear.
Huh?
He can't hear.
He can't hear. Hey, he's our welder. They're all getting back from lunch. I was gonna have Sean come in and take a bow. Come here.
No.
Come here.
No.
Just come here. He's doing this.
No.
We'll just get him in his face. Don't have him turn around. Just come this way and take a bow.
You don't do
just
blind
come take a
and
bow.
blind.
Do a bow.
No.
Okay, so
What's
this
up?
is Sean.
He was bragging on you.
I was bragging on him. I don't do that very often, especially when he's like in
Hold
person.
on.
Yeah.
Yep, it froze over.
Yeah. So, we always close the show with a quote from the Hot Rod Man, Ernie. So which book should we go from?
Whatever you want.
Do this one?
Sure.
You want to pick one? Here, pick one. Put your finger on one. Okay, we got one for today. It says throwing money. I like that one. Let's see what it is. Oh, we actually did this. Of all these things, we just did this one the other day, but we're going to do it again. And this is a good one. Okay, so this is going to apply. Throwing money at a problem does not create a solution, but creativity and cooperation do. So, good job, good pick. So,
Thank you.
all right, we're glad you're with us today. We're glad you're with us today. Back at it. I think we solved some of our problems, so now you got to fix what we solved. So,
Fix what you saw.
fix what we solved.
Oh, man,
So,
what'd you do?
we'll be back Monday. Have a good weekend.